Hi, welcome back to Zoomers the podcast.
I'm your co-host, Eliana.
And I'm your co-host, Isla.
Okay, so today we're going to just talk about COVID-19, Corona. For us, it's the first time living through a pandemic like this. For other generations, they've lived through SARS, I think maybe even the Spanish flu, some of the older people. But yeah, it's the first time, so it's kind of crazy. Yeah, how do you feel about it so far, Isla?
I don't know what to make of it. It's definitely something that our generation hasn't experienced, but I hope because we now have experienced it, if something like this were to happen again, we would have like a better response.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I think people are kind of not responding as well as they can, if that makes any sense. And yeah, so we're gonna talk about that. And it's kind of crazy to think that we're like living through like a moment in history because this is pretty huge. This is very huge actually. And I feel like it's gonna be weird to like see kids in the future like taking tests and learning about this in school when like we lived through it. That's just weird.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's gonna become like war stories that like your grandparents tell you. Like
Yeah, no, and I saw like jokes about it on like the internet or whatever. And like I don't know, it should be interesting because like right now, at least I feel like history doesn't appeal to a lot of people just from my perspective at my school. And I feel like a lot of times when we're learning things, we're like, oh, this is so boring. And I feel like it's so interesting that like I'm not really a history person. Like to imagine like what we're living through would be like someone in the future being like, this is just not that interesting. Like this happened long ago. But like to us, it's like such a real thing, such a like
uh-huh.
that we have to live through.
Mm-hmm. For me at least, like it's not hitting me so hard. Obviously, hasn't affected anyone super close to me, and not me at all, not people in my area that much either. So I feel like I'm not experiencing it like to the fullest extent, and I'm glad about that. But also,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of disconnected from like that part of the outbreak because like I see stuff on the news and it's like whoa, but I don't feel any connection to that, so it doesn't feel real in a sense. That's just my shower
Yeah.
thought. Okay, so we're gonna go through a couple of myths about Corona and kind of discuss how those arose to begin with and debunk them. So the first myth is that you can protect yourself from Corona by injecting, swallowing, bathing in, or rubbing onto your body bleach, disinfectants, or rubbing alcohols. This is false. Because those things are very toxic to begin with, and I don't know why anyone would like consider that as an option, even if it's effective, because that would do serious damage either way.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like people are often just like not even paying attention to the facts, like with like toxic chemicals like that, like the whole Tide Pod challenge, where like our generation was like eating Tide Pods. Like that's honestly so embarrassing. Like it's so toxic. Like I didn't understand like why that was a whole thing in the first place.
A lot of trends that are just like really dangerous, like that our generation's gone through. Like there's like stuff about like snorting cinnamon and stuff that I don't know, and I don't know. I just what's the appeal? I don't see the appeal or like effectiveness at all.
Yeah, I guess you like gain attention or whatever but it's like negative attention. You should just do like things that other people can be proud of you for doing, like accomplishing something, not doing something that's like harming you.
Right. I mean, it's very interesting to like see. I haven't like seen anyone actually swallow a Tide Pod or anything, but I'm sure like if I saw it, I wouldn't be able to look away for sure, even if it's like gross. So I think Trump was a huge factor in this myth. Um, because I don't know, he tweeted about it or something, right? Or like gave some sort of statement at a conference, or and then later said it was sarcasm, which I don't know. I feel like that's not an excuse at all. Like you can't joke about
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, especially when you're such like a figure kind of authority that some people might like look up to because you're in that position of power. Like I feel like you can't joke about things like that could be like really harming to others if some people might take that like seriously and try that.
Yeah. I think people have taken it seriously, And it's scary to think about that because, like, if people believe that, like, what else are they going to believe? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Myth number 2, a vaccine to cure COVID-19 is available right now. False. Apparently there's no vaccine as of April 27th, which was only like 6 days ago, 7 days ago, a week ago. So yeah, people are working on them, but they're not going to be available for a couple months. Yeah, it's crazy. I watched a movie called, I don't know what it's called, but it's about like an outbreak that's like very similar to Corona. And people were like confused because like it's kind of predicting what's happening right now. And it came out like in 2010 or 2011. And it was crazy because they were testing it on monkeys and stuff. And then it came out like really, really soon. But that's not a reality for us right now.
Yeah, because isn't it gonna be like a while? Because at first, like they were saying that it like takes a year to like invent,
Oh,
and
God.
they haven't really made that much progress. It seems like from what I've read, at least.
I don't really know how you make a vaccine. Something about like matching like the DNA and RNA of like the actual virus to like stuff that can like break it down and kill it. So it seems pretty straightforward, but I guess it's really not.
Well, I was talking to someone who like works in that like industry with, and they're like all in the process of trying to find one of the many people who's trying to find the vaccination, and they
Uh,
were saying take like a lot of old vaccinations too, and they like test those on it to see if that can work.
uh-huh.
They can like bring that like vaccination over to Corona and cure that. But I think like a, a lot of their old vaccinations they've tested haven't been working so far. But they said they also like, I don't know, I was kind of confused because he used a lot of words I didn't really understand, but that seemed like the gist of what he was saying.
Right. Also, like, I feel like viruses, I feel like, I know that viruses can, like, change and, like, evolve in a really
Yeah.
short time span. So, like, that's, like, an ongoing race, I feel like, between scientists and, like, the actual virus. So it's not going to end very fast. So that's kind of scary to think about.
Yeah. And it doesn't help that people use like antibodies when they're not like really supposed to.
Sure, yeah. Okay. Next myth, ordering or buying products shipped from overseas will make someone sick. Mostly false because as a package travels, it travels over several days and is exposed to different temperatures and conditions, so it's most likely to have died during transit. Yeah, my mom has been really paranoid about that, and she's, yeah. And we're like spraying down packages and stuff, but it's very unlikely that the virus would have been carried over on a package. But we do a lot of online shopping. How about you guys?
I mean, okay, most of my family doesn't. I bought a few things, but I ended up returning most of them.
Good for you.
The only thing I've really kept has been my Birkenstocks,
Okay.
but I return. But I'm glad I got them. They were worth it.
Of course. I don't know, like there's more of an urge to online shop now. Because there's nothing to do besides online shop, really.
Yeah, that's so true. And especially like all these websites now, because they want to keep like the money flowing in, they're like, here's another deal, 20% off, or you can get this. And then I'm like, oh, that's an addition. Like, I'll take that deal. And then
Yeah.
I would like buy more things. But I feel like I end up not really keeping a lot of things.
Okay, that's good then. At least you're not like, I don't know, going crazy. Speaking
Yeah.
of crazy, people are literally like in the movie, it's called Contagion. People were literally like robbing each other and killing each other over like food and like going to like the markets and stuff, and especially like the pharmacies. People were like stampeding, and like I'm glad it's not gotten to that point. But I've
Oh
seen
my
videos
God.
of like ladies fighting like in Walmart over like groceries.
Yeah, I saw that the other day. I saw this like there was this like product and it was the last one left, and then there was two women, and then they like looked at it, and then they both kind of walked fast over there, and then one for the other. It wasn't like a fight, but then the other one looked really annoyed. and she looked like she was about to say something, and I was just kind of like standing there being like a bystander, like, oh my God. Like, but yeah, people are definitely like, I hope it doesn't get to that point. My dad was like scared the other day. He was like, I don't know, like I think he read an article and it made him a little paranoid. But I'm making a comment kind of to like, you should lock the doors. Like, what if somebody tries to come by and steal our toilet paper? And I was like, that's not gonna happen. Like, I don't think it would. Like, that's kind of insane if someone were to do that.
Yeah, plus everyone's home, so I feel like
Yeah.
burglaries are less likely to happen unless like they're armed. Okay. Moving on. I just scared myself. Okay. Okay, moving on. Hot, humid climates protect you from COVID-19. This is apparently false, according to John Hopkins. My grandparents are saying like this is true though. So they're like, leave your stuff outside and then it'll get disinfected by the sun or something. So I guess no. Desert areas and tropical areas are not in the clear. Yeah, I don't know how that really affects me. Like living in California, it's getting really hot now, but
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely heard mixed things about that though, and different information from different people. So personally, I don't know what to believe about that because I don't know. I definitely don't think like desert areas are like clear from it, but I think like the sun is definitely helping to kill off the virus faster or
sure.
make it inactive. But it's definitely not like completely just like, I don't know. It's just the information seems really mixed. And so, and they don't seem to have like a lot of data to support the sides. So I don't really know what to believe there personally.
Yeah, it's like it's not gonna hurt. It won't hurt to leave your stuff in the sun, I guess. But like I wouldn't trust it completely. Okay. Last myth that we're gonna do or go over. Only older people are at risk for coronavirus. This is false. Even if you like look at stats and stuff, like younger people, like in their 20s to 40s, have died. I'm gonna look at the actual data right now. But I think our generation, Gen Z, which I think, I don't know who's in that generation. I don't know the cutoff dates, but okay. So 0 to 17, there have been 3 deaths in the U.S. though, and all of those people had already have had like previous conditions, like they were already like immunodeficient or thing. I don't know what it's called. But yeah, so it is mostly like people who are above like the age of 70. But that doesn't mean that we're not at risk and we shouldn't be careful.
Yeah, and especially because like we can spread it so easily to the older generations
That's what
that
I'm
are
most scared of.
at risk. What?
That's what I'm most scared of, like getting it and like giving it to like my parents or like some old
Yeah.
lady that I come like run into like at the store. I feel like I would feel so bad.
Yeah, same for me. And like my parents, like my dad has asthma, so like
Oh,
I feel like I have to be more careful, I guess, because of that. But yeah, I'm like I don't want to spread it to other people. I'm not worried about getting it myself because I don't know. I've been told by a lot of people that I have a strong like immune system, so I'm not worried about having it at all. Just spreading it to others for sure.
yeah, I remember you telling us that like that you hadn't gotten sick in like so long. I don't know, back in
Okay, I
school.
swear. Okay, I have okay. I personally think the reason behind it, but I think it's a very interesting topic for another time.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely do something about that because I think like immune systems, like it's really interesting, and I have a whole thing about that.
Okay. I get sick once a year, like always like on the dot, like after Thanksgiving I'll get sick. Literally like you can predict it pretty much. But yeah, I'm not too worried either. Like I'm not biting my nails or anything, worrying about it. But after watching that movie, I kind of freaked out because there are like kids dying in that movie. I was like, oh God. Okay, yeah, so those are all the myths we're gonna go over today. So like social issues from Corona, like people are obviously like becoming paranoid, resorting to like violence and aggression. especially with like products and supermarkets. And I heard a lot about stocks too, but I feel like I'm not qualified to talk about that. People are like buying / selling stocks like really aggressively and really fast. So I don't know about anything, but
yeah, no, the stock market, it's gone crazy right now. Like my mom, she works in it, so I've heard a lot about it from her. But she was saying once this whole thing first started, they're like, because the stocks had such low prices, then she was constantly trying to buy as much as she could because like at that it was just such a low price. And so she was spending a ton of time buying stocks. And that's like what her like most of her job is in managing like her clients' stocks and everything. So like she's had to like be working way more than usual, which is kind of funny. It's not funny, but
I mean,
yeah,
like the whole corona situation, like it's made jobs like change. Some people are working a lot more. Some people are like out of work, so it's a huge like it used to be somewhat balanced, where people were like it was normal, and then now it's like blown completely out of proportion, which is
no, it's crazy. And like like it's not important, like it's not like I don't need a job, it's not necessary, like I don't need to like support my family, but I wanted to have a job to make money myself this summer. And I've applied to so many different places and I haven't even heard back from them because of this. So I can definitely see like how hard getting a job is, because like I have reached out to so many places and and if I can't get a job this summer, personally I'm kind of worried of what I'm just going to be doing this summer, because that's what I wanted to do. And now I'm kind of just gonna have nothing there, so I'm gonna have to definitely figure that one out.
Yeah, it's really crazy that that's happening, and I feel like I've heard a lot more about politics in the last couple of weeks than I have like in the last year.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, Trump has like sparked a lot of controversy in general. Not only like the whole like drink bleach thing. Don't quote me on that, but the whole thing was terrible because a lot of his followers are people who support him or trust him even, like followed through with that. And then there's a whole thing about him calling coronavirus the Chinese virus, which is like really dehumanizing in a way, because I heard something about like the World Health Organization. Like people were like arguing that like the Spanish flu is called the Spanish flu, and like the Zika virus is named after like a place called Zika. But like the World Health Organization has like passed something that like doesn't want like viruses or diseases to be named after their origin place. So like those things are really outdated, and so it's a I don't know. It can be argued, but
I mean, I agree. I think it's kind of dehumanizing because we definitely have this conversation in our family. And like at first, like I feel like my family was kind of like, it's okay. But I was definitely like to the side, like, I don't really think you should, because I feel like the word like virus, like because like viruses have such a negative impact on communities, to like associate that word with like a huge population, I feel like it creates a negative correlation. Because if you're like a person who's like really uneducated and misinformed about the world, I feel like if you hear the word like the Chinese virus, you're going to kind of assume, like I assume things like about Chinese that aren't positive because the correlation of the word virus with Chinese. So I feel like you should just, it's just, and so I kind of agree that it's kind of dehumanizing. And so I really just don't think that like negative words like a virus should be associated with a certain demographic.
exactly. Whoa, that was really well phrased. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so there has been like a huge like surge in like racist racist acts against Chinese people, or people who look Chinese, I guess, some other people. So yeah, that's been a huge thing like on the internet too, at least like from my perspective, I guess. I've seen a lot of stuff about that, and it's like it's obviously not good. It's not good, and it's like originated from like that whole like paranoia mindset. So I don't know how you would combat that mindset, because people like emotions like fear and paranoia and kind of like nervousness or worry are really hard to like talk people out of or try to combat. So I don't know what are your ways of coping with those emotions, just like in any situation?
Well, okay, and personally myself, I feel like I often don't really cope with my emotions very well. And when I do have like some sort of feeling, I like
Uh-huh.
usually just like press it down and push it. I'm like, I don't have time
Okay.
to think about this right now. So
Yeah.
I would say personally, I don't do well with coping in any really emotional situation in the moment.
Uh-huh.
I guess like before a moment like that arises, I try and just like I don't even know, to be honest. I don't really think there's much that I really do. What
Same.
about you?
Just don't think about it. Like if something's like bothering me, I like won't think about it until like it becomes irrelevant. And like that's not something I can do right now with like Corona and stuff. It's always gonna be relevant for as long as it's around and as long as like I'm in quarantine. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a balance, I guess. Um, all I can say to people who are like worried and like um are making actions or like are acting aggressive or violent or hateful because of that paranoia, like I can't really say anything because like their emotions are valid, I guess racism is not valid in any circumstance, neither is like violence, but like it's somewhat understandable um in this context more than like a normal context. Like I don't understand, obviously. Yeah, I'm going in circles, but I don't understand. But like um, but I almost see where that's coming from. Like I can see like where those actions originate. But people need to like educate themselves and kind of
Yes.
get in the know before
Yes.
like saying anything or being like hateful, like online or in person.
Yes, I 100% like agree with you. Like my personal like philosophy is like that education is like the key to everything. Like education is like my priority in life. Like I feel like personally like this and like so many other problems can be solved by just educating so many more people. And you can like see it in like societies. Like I don't know if you've read 1984, but in that society, like they're not educated very well, which is why the government is able to control them. And I feel like if people were just more educated, they could form their own opinions and like say things that are and do things that are more like valid and okay than like
Yeah,
being like violent in as the way to like deal with the problems and
yeah,
what they're like feeling. So like I definitely feel like education, like that is something like that you can do to prevent like consequences of things, like education beforehand.
yeah. Like my personal philosophy is not education, but like I always like to think that there are more good people than bad people in the world. That kind of ties in with your philosophy because like if there are more good people than bad people, then that means that once they are educated, more people will take on I don't know, nicer mindsets, nicer philosophies than their ones of hate and violence and all these things. So yeah, so it's kind of sad to think about that. Um, our country, our world has the potential to be so great, yet because of education and like misconceptions and stuff like that, it's like it's not as great, and there's still like a lot of conflict.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I would agree. Yeah. Like I've just seen like with like less educated people, like obviously I'm not even that educated because I'm still in high school, but
Yeah.
like with people who've had like less education or like less of a background,
Uh-huh.
like in adults I know, for example, I just often see them making a lot of comments, especially now in this time, like where they don't really form their own opinions and they kind of trust like some news outlets and are just believing everything, which kind of goes back to the thing that like Trump said and the reason why I think that's so dangerous of what he said, even if it was a joke, as he said, like because a lot of people will believe you because that's what they just trust everything that's kind of said to them, and I think that's because of the lack of education,
Yeah.
and that's just something I've observed, which is why I'm so like firm on education and why it's like I don't know, it's just like something my life is just it's something that's just really important to me. I don't even really know why. I guess that's partly why, and just because it's a big part of my life.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a lot of that plays into like fake news from this time. Like, um, I don't know if you heard about like I don't know, like there's like a site on Facebook or something that my mom told me about that's like literally just leaking like random facts and like events about corona and like current events in general. Like yeah, so it's just it's giving false information to a lot of people. And like that's the same idea as with like product advertising right now. Like people are like advertising like different like antibacterial sprays and stuff, and saying like it'll help like combat corona even though there's no scientific backing whatsoever. So it's really sad to see how like paranoia and like not enough education are taking advantage of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like big companies are definitely taking advantage of people during this time and like preying on their like lack of like fact checking, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's the best way to put it, I think. Okay, so what do you think is like the meaning behind this? Like what's gonna be good coming out of corona? Like when we come out of quarantine, what's gonna be the best thing?
Okay. Well, here's what I hope what will happen, and this would be the
Okay.
best in my
Okay.
what I hope, actually, I've read this in some papers, like where they're talking about, okay, wait, where do I start from? Okay, basically, like, I think I guess because I'm a more of a pessimist, like,
Sure.
person, I just see that there's a lot of, like, wrong things with this world and so many things that we could fix.
Yeah.
And I think, like, okay, basically, the main thing here is the environment.
Right.
I think, okay, so in the Paris Accords, like, they, like, talked about, like, how we have to on as like the whole world as a society needs to be on this track of a downward trend in emissions in order to hit a certain point, so like our earth isn't going to be like doomed or whatever.
Yeah.
And we basically only, and the Paris Accords were like created and stuff so we could like start to get on that track and
Right.
like help to like lessen the impact on our planet and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But we have only got onto this track since the beginning of this like pandemic, which has like shut down so many things, so there's been like less emissions and everything.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy because like if we have to be living in a world that's like half shut down to get on that track and stay that way, so that like we aren't going to like have a world that's gonna like end or whatever, that's kind of crazy. And I feel like, and then I saw this article that was talking about how like the reason why we're not on that track is because of like the economy, and everyone's like the big companies like fossil fuel companies, they don't want to stop doing what they're doing because it's good for the economy and blah blah blah. But like what the article was saying is that because of like fossil fuels and stuff and all that stuff, what they do that's hazardous to like our environment creates like hazards for us. Apparently, it was like linking how like some types of pollution causes more like of these like types of natural disaster type things that we kind of create for ourselves because of that. And they were like the damage of those disasters like cost so much more than what it would be to start putting more green emissions in place. So it was like how people should start putting more like green things in place, wind power, solar power, like that's always been around. We should just start implementing it more. And like and it's like talks about like how the only like drawback it really sees is how expensive it is and how everyone claims it's like a toll for the economy. But like what the article was arguing was that actually no, it's actually like over time, like it might be bad at first, but like over time it'd be better. Like I kind of think it's like kind of like Brexit. Like everyone was talking about how like Brexit, like when the British left the EU, it was going to be super bad for them at first because the pound value and everything was just going to go totally bad for them.
Sure.
But afterward, once they didn't have to be paying like a ton of money to the EU every year or whenever they pay the money, like it was going to be better for them in the end. So I feel like it's just something like that where yes, we might be poorly impacted at first, but like over time it get better. So like I really hope that because we've been in quarantine and people are seeing like that with less driving and everything, like it's way better for like our planet and the air quality. I hope because of that. And also like so many people, obviously like lots of people have lost their jobs, but a lot of people have been really able to work from home successfully. And I've even heard from a lot of like my parents' friends, like this is like way better. I like working at home, like I'm getting more work done. And even for me at like working home, obviously without teachers it's unhelpful, like that's really annoying, but like working from home I get like more work done because I can plan my day. So I feel like a lot of like large companies, like I'm not there obviously, so I don't know, but I feel like a lot of large companies like Facebook and Google and stuff, like those employees they can kind of work from home and have a lot. And so I feel like companies should like try and encourage their employees honestly to like even work from home, because then they don't have to pay for like space for their employees and everything, and they can just work at their houses and there's like less emissions. So okay, the general takeaway from all of that is like, I hope like people will see that we need to get on a better track to like help our planet, and we really need to reduce our emissions.
We need to, okay, cool. Yeah, so like I think the best thing is definitely gonna be the environment, and kind of, well, hopefully it won't just like from there we'll just come crashing down and come back to where we always were.
Yeah.
So I think this will definitely show more people like how serious our like what is it our situation is, and hopefully convince like older people too, since like people like one thing that I was kind of like frustrated about kind of was that politicians are like obviously older. A lot of them are like in the age range that corona targets, or like that corona appears in most. So I kind of was like confused and like had some frustration over the fact that like they responded so quickly to the corona outbreak, and we're putting all these measures in place to like prevent it, and putting a lot of money in it into it too, whereas like the environmental crisis has been going on for so long and like we've done nothing about it, and like that's the thing that's going to affect our generation and generations after us the most. So I feel like that's like honestly should have higher priority, like for the future and like the future of
Yeah.
the world, more so than like what's happening right now, because I don't know, but definitely it hit home more for the politicians, so they put more money into that and more effort into that, which is kind of frustrating when I think about it. So I think people should be kind of upset over that, especially Gen Z. We should be upset over that.
Yeah, and I feel like politicians, a lot of them who are in positions, they're only in that, like, they're elected into that position, or like at least in like a democracy, they're elected into that position for like a pretty short time, because there's usually like terms and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I feel like often they're more focused on the present rather than like the future, because they're more worried about like how their impact in that position of power is going to affect the economy, and if it's good for the economy, then they might be revoted, so it's good for them. But I feel like they're really just not focusing on the future and the fact that like the environment is like such a huge thing. And I feel like that it's just so frustrating, because I feel like so many of us in our generation, at least, it seems like a lot more of us care about the environment because we're going to be the ones who are in the future, so we're the ones who care. And
Yeah.
so I really wish there were just like more politicians out there, because like I feel like they kind of are in power, and they kind of do make a lot of decisions, like obviously in like a democracy, like how we like are in a democracy. I mean, like I can't really speak for other countries because I haven't really seen what their type of government is really like.
Yeah.
But like obviously, like it has people have limited power because there's like checks and balances, but they do have like more power than like I kind of do as just a citizen. And so like we need to be more like electing people who are like caring about the environment. Like personally, I know when I have the right to vote, like in 2 years from now, I'm probably going to be voting for someone who cares about the environment, because like I know all politicians have their downsides, like they all have something like wrong with them. There's media attacking them for like them like sexually assaulting someone, or like using money for like a bad reason, or like trying to start a war with like another country. Like I mean, like, so like I feel like politicians all honestly, like if you're a politician, I feel like there's always going to be some dirt on you, because and people are like trying to create dirt on you. But I feel like, at least for me, I feel like the environment is like number one, at least in my life, and education too. Like, okay, those two things, like they're like pretty there at the top. So like, I feel like we just need more like leaders who are caring about the environment, because that's one of the biggest problems of our future.
Yeah, people should like a lot of teenagers and like tweens, I guess you call them, like a lot of kids are like involved and like really active with politics, especially on like social media and stuff. So like politicians should really take advantage of that and like try to appeal to kids, because like in a couple of years, like we're gonna be the ones who are voting too, and
Yeah,
It's
but, like,
yeah.
the thing is, like, right now they don't care though because we don't have the vote, but I feel like if our generation still cares on the environment and we stay on that track, like, politicians will either have to change or you know what? I think we should talk about this in the other time and in another
Okay.
podcast
Yeah.
episode, but personally, what I think the voting age should be lowered so we have more of a voice.
Okay, true, but also a lot of teenagers are trolls, and I don't know. Like we can discuss that. There are a lot of pros and cons, but I think overall, yeah, um, politics is oh god, it's not in our favor right now, and yeah, I just wanted to bring up that like politicians are putting a lot of effort into Corona and stuff, and not enough into other issues that will be major in the future. Um, okay, so I think that wraps up our discussion for today. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, we covered most of the stuff I wanted to like talk about. I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like there's endless amounts of things that impacts like businesses, people, healthcare,
Mhm.
economy, society, just the entire world. So I feel like I could talk way more about this for like many other subjects, but
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think we covered a lot of what we wanted to.
Yeah. One huge thing for Gen Z especially is our mental health right now. I know like me as more of an ambivert with introvert tendencies, I'm doing okay. I still talk to my
Oh,
friends and stuff. Go ahead. Go.
okay. No. Now that you brought up mental health, there was one thing I wanted to say. Like,
Okay.
I was kind of reflecting because, like, working at like a suicide hotline, I did that for
Yeah.
like a while. I feel like I kind of saw like more. I don't know. Maybe I have more background in this, but I was because I feel like nobody's really brought this up, or at least I haven't really seen anybody bringing this up. But I feel like this must be a really hard time for some people who are going through like some like mental illness or whatever because it's like really hard, especially like when you're kind of isolated to feel like really unsupported, or like if you're in a home with like parents who like don't support you because like I know I have some friends who like have like a certain sexuality that's not really like supported by their parents.
Mhm.
And so like to be in their home around their parents, like with nobody that's like supporting them, where at school they have like really supportive friends,
Yeah.
like that must be really hard. And also like this is kind of like dramatic, but like it's still kind of an issue, like sexual assault victims who are like locked up with their like abusive
Oh god.
girlfriend or boyfriend or like a significant other.
Yeah.
And so like one because like they can't and a lot of times they can't like really leave, so then like this whole like being in quarantine has kind of like made that even more, I feel like, flare up. I mean, I don't know anybody in that situation, but I can like only imagine like how hard that would be.
Yeah. Like for me, I'm really lucky because my safe space is home. But I know
Yeah.
people like their safe space is like school or work or I don't know, um like the track or something. Like that's where they feel the most comfortable. So I feel really bad for those who don't feel the greatest at home and are extroverts or want to see their friends and they can't. So yeah, that's a huge thing. For me, right now quarantine is okay. A lot of my friends are getting along okay too, but I know that a lot of us have the same sort of personality, so we're okay. But I know a lot of people are really struggling right now, so my condolences to anyone who is struggling. Yeah. Okay. So stay safe, everybody. Um, we'll see you next week with another podcast episode. Um, yeah. Stay inside. Be safe. Bye.
Bye.